Hey guys, welcome to TST Garage. I'm Bart. In this video we have the GSX 8S in the shop with us again. We will be performing the installation of the TST Industries Running Mate accessory for signal and running light. Now this component is a plug and play system. It will give your running light, your DRL up front, the capability of being a signal lamp in addition to being DRL, and also a single circuit signal in the front will also be able to become a running light when not in signal mode. On the input side, we have all factory connectors, so you disassemble the front, disconnect the connections for the lighting in the front, plug these guys in, and that presents the output on the side that interfaces with the lamps. The DRL output is the same connector as the DRL has already. You just plug it through, and our circuitry takes care of running it in DRL mode for DRL function and also in signal mode when you're signaling. Now the other output is a set of 3.5 millimeter female bullet connectors. We chose to output in this connector because most aftermarket signal lamps terminate in the male 3.5 bullet. So being that the most popular configuration on the front signals in these bikes is aftermarket LED signals, we chose to do that. Now we have the OEM signals still here. We've gone with our TST Industries signals on the bike itself. This signal does terminate in the JST micro plug that would typically connect into this type of connector. We chose not to run that because that requires an extra harness to interface with the aftermarket lamps, and since we anticipate that most of you guys out there will be going with aftermarket signals, this is the best choice for that. If you still want to use this setup with the OEM signals, then you will have to cut this plug off and wire this together, and that's not a big deal. It takes a couple extra moments, a couple extra steps, but it does get the desired effect and still is simple to install. Now, I do want to talk about compatibility here. In front of me here, you see several different lamps that we offer at tstindustries.com. To this side of me, we have the single circuit standard signals. This means they just turn on and off when signaling is initiated. That is controlled by your flasher relay on the bike. The rate is set there. These guys just turn on and off when the relay tells them to. On this side of me, you have IC controlled signals. We have electronic control for the purpose of inboard to outboard sequence, commonly called sequential signals. They signal in the outboard direction and they look really cool, but they are IC controlled, therefore they are controlled by a logic circuit. And in our running mate, we have pulse width modulation to achieve a darker running light on the signal itself so that you don't blind people. And that clashes with the IC control. So please, during your shopping session at tstindustries.com or any other aftermarket signal provider, make sure that you're getting the appropriate signal lamp that will be compatible with your setup. So we will not be considering these. These are the choices we have here. On this bike, we already have the BL6. This has become the standard here. It's very nice, sleek, techie look, and it provides ample brightness. So we'll deal with that on the bike and we'll show you what that looks like. The installation of this, like I said, is pretty much plug and play. There are two different versions I'm going to be showing you or explaining how to install. First, we need to get in there. So we'll do the breakdown first, then we'll come back to the table and I'll show you how to plug it all together and where the wires go. And then we'll hop back on the bike and reinstall it, and then I'll show you what it looks like. First step will consist of removing the headlight shroud off the bike. The headlight shroud also houses the signals. It does have two wire pairs and two connectors on each side for this light and the DRL. I'm going to start by removing the push fasteners. This one here and its match on the other side has a button that gets pressed in and then it gets withdrawn. The fasteners up here need to have the head popped up. I use a tiny flathead screwdriver to gently pop up the head. That unlocks it to this position. Now at this point, we're gonna have to grab a 4mm Allen, remove this fastener here and its match on the other side. This is a black fastener that has a shoulder on it. The next fasteners will look very similar to this one, but be silver. Please memorize the order in which they went in. Now, the last two fasteners are under here. They are those silver types. Also use a 4mm Allen. Now at this point we have to be careful because this guy's free to come off. Don't want to dislodge it just yet. Make it fall, make sure it's still secure. We're going to jump under here and disconnect some wires. In this step, I am working on the right side of the motorcycle with the bars turned left. I'm going to identify the connectors to you, and then we're going to go through the unplug. These two connectors, both of them are white. Those are the connectors for the DRL running lights. These both will have to get taken off. Then we have this black one here. We currently have it taken up with our harness, so you see a white plug here. Factory is black to black. On the other side we have red. All these are the same type of connector. They are the JST micro connector like you see here, just a different color, but it's the same geometry. There's a little ratchet piece here that locks in to a window. To take out, we need to press on this reset portion of that ratchet, and that enables you to withdraw the connectors from each other. This is a pretty cumbersome disconnection here because if you have hands as large as mine, it's tough to fit yourself in there. So I'm using a little flathead screwdriver to press on the unlock, and that makes it possible for me. The other side, I'm going to try to reach under and put tension on that wire. It's actually pretty difficult there. There is no real good way to do it, so I'm going to obscure the view on you guys a little bit here while I dislodge that one. Okay, those are out. Now the signal connector has to come out. It does rotate and it'll bend a little bit. I'm going to try to get it with my finger first. That's still cumbersome. Like I said, it does clear from the inboard side, or rather it locks from the inboard side, so you do have to press the lock from the inboard to the outboard side and then withdraw it. So now with that disconnecting, we're gonna hop to the left side. We are now on the left side of the bike with the bars turned right. Our connector of interest is right here. Same procedure, it just faces in an easier direction to get at. That's it for the disconnection. At this point, all of the fasteners have been taken out. All the connections have been disconnected. We just wiggle this until it comes off. And now we just have to make sure that we don't snag any of the wires, however they're routed in there. Want to be gentle and undo the routing. And now we can jump to the table, perform the rest there. I'm going to reiterate the directionality of the connection here. The single JST connector with the blue and this dual conductor connector goes towards the bike. So this connection will be taken up by the DRL connector. Let's do that for both sides. And then we have the bullet connectors that are supposed to connect into our signals. Now what you see here is our sub harness that we sell for the plug and play connection of our signals into stock harnesses. As you can see, it's the same connector as the OEM signal lamp. We will have to take that away for this installation. If you guys already have a signal set installed and you have this type of a sub harness, you will need to remove it. If you've just purchased your entire setup from our store and you've purchased the signals with no sub harness, you're good to go. Your signals from our store, or typically any aftermarket signals nowadays, terminate in these 3.5mm bullet connectors. They're males. They interface with our bullet connectors here. For our equipment, it's just yellow to yellow, black to black, no big deal. There's no ambiguity there. Now these bullet connectors do have insulators on them. They are sliding insulator caps. If you just leave it like this, they do have the opportunity to slide off during riding vibration. So we want to lock them down. I am going to use some electrical tape. I insulate the positive, which is the yellow first. And then I'll do a little winding of tape around the pair. So that will lock down our little sliding insulating caps, and this will be safe from short circuits for years to come. That's good to go. All right, so this setup is now complete. It's ready to go back on the bike. The way we've configured this system is in a way that these DRL lamps will work as running lights at 100% of their brightness. They are intended to be DRL, so their 100% is sufficient for DRL and signal function. During no signaling initiated, they will just stay on. And the signal lamps here will also stay on. These will be in 75% brightness. Now, when you do initiate a right signal, both this lamp and this lamp will blink. This will stay at the same intensity that it was at previously. This will increase to 100% intensity. The reason why we knock these down to 75% for running is so that you don't blind people with the excessive brightness of the signal function. So that's one of the ways that we like to configure these. Some guys out there will want to go with a slightly different configuration where this is just the running light. You're not adding the signal function to this. You're just adding signal and running light function to the signal lamps. In that instance, on the input side, you would leave this blue connector not connected. You would also not connect your DRL to our running mate. This remains connected to the bike. You will need to grab a posi tap or another splice type connector and cut this wire off and splice it into the gray wire in this circuit. Now this is a bit more involved. I just wanted to demonstrate that it's possible if the standard function of this system is not your flavor. Most guys, I feel, will opt for this DRL being signal and running and this being signal and running. So that will be the simplest installation mode, and that's why we've configured it plug and play for that mode. One additional nuance I want to talk about is if you're not running aftermarket signals and your signals are stock type or already terminated in one of these connectors, obviously our bullet connectors will not accept this JST connector. So you can technically go out and get yourself a JST female socket and get it crimped on here, and that's also cool. It's just time consuming. You have to order extra parts. So instead, you could slice this connector off, slice these connectors off, and wire teal to yellow and black with white trace to the black. Now on the other side, same color code, just splice them together and then you're good to go. I want to mention one more thing. When you remove OEM signals and replace them with any aftermarket signals, there is a good chance that you're going to experience hyperflash or some other symptom to your flash rate that is not standard. Standard flash rate is 85 cycles per minute. If you go away from that, some of this equipment in the configuration that we've made it into may act a little funny, the symptoms vary from bike to bike depending on what other signaling equipment you have on the rear. So I always recommend using our LED flasher relay Gen 2. On the bike, it replaces your OEM unit and sets the flashing rate at 85 cycles per minute, no matter what you have installed. The installation is fairly easy. We do have a separate video showing you how to install that, so check that out on our YouTube page or tstindustries.com. Let's jump back to the bike, plug this in, get it configured, and then we'll be done. I've laid out a little towel here on my painted surfaces, making sure to protect them. I have my wire sets separated by side. I'll rest my front shroud here. Now it's time to plug things in. Since we made an extra length of wire here, this will now be pretty easy. So the connector that houses the two wires here, red and brown, goes into the signal connection on each side. We do want to make sure that we're going from inboard side of this bracket. We don't want to go around it. And now the single wire into the JST plug now gets connected into one of the running light circuits that sits in between. This is one of the first things that we disconnected when we were disconnecting from the other side of the motorcycle. So that connection is now made. I'm going to turn the wheel and perform the other side connection. It's vastly the same. I'm not going to move the camera because it's just the same concept. Just remember to go inboard of that bracket that holds all of the equipment and headlights here. That's in. Let's test the function before we go any further. All right, we have running light, running light, running light, running light. That function seems to be all good. Left signal, right signal, reset. All right, all our functions are working correctly. Now it's just a matter of reassembly. The reassembly will be slightly different than disassembly, obviously, because we have extra wires and we need to make sure that we don't configure the wires in a way that they could interfere with our steering stop. If you get your wires in between the steering stop surfaces back here where my fingers are, they will get smushed in between, and over time that will cut them. So we need to go up above and make sure that all the wiring stays up here. I'm gonna feed our wire bulk up behind this member. And then once it passes through here, I'm gonna feed it inboard and to the other side to exit here as far as I could put it. And the configuration on the other side of the bike will be identical. Now, it is fairly challenging to get this all placed in there and keep it in there as we work on the other side. So we just have to stay patient and do our best, and then we'll have success. I'm looking pretty good here. Now I just have to do the other side. That's looking really good here. One final check, making sure that I don't snag any wires on any other components that may. And let's bring it back into position. Everything seems to fit really well here. I'm going to replace the easiest fasteners to put back in. After this step, the screws will follow. I'm going to start with the bottom screws. They were the silver color screws. I get them engaged by hand, and I make sure to get the shoulder portion into the painted surface first, So I mush it around until it fits concentric, and then I'll follow up with a tool. All right, let's give the system one more try before we call the job done. Running light works. Both sides of signaling work. This job is now complete. I really like the effect that this produces. You get added visibility for signal direction changes. You get the added coolness of having several lights performing the same function. This really does enhance the front end of this motorcycle. If you agree with me, check out tstindustries.com. We have these parts ready to go, ready to send to your house. And using our video, you'll be able to perform this pretty straightforward installation yourself. Thank you for watching. Drop me a comment. I really appreciate hearing from you guys. I like to know if we're doing good, if we need to change something. So I always start conversations with our viewers. Hit like and subscribe and ride safe. Thanks. See you later.